Section 2.3 is about using 2 points to find the slope and then eventually the equation of a line. So remember, if we're giving you, it says find the slope of the line that contains the points 2, -4, and -6, 1. So your basic formula for finding slope from 2 points is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So just assign one of the points to be point number 1, the other point to be point number 2. So then my equation becomes the y of point number 2, so that's here, so that's 1, minus the y of point number 1, and be careful when you do this, it's minus whatever that y is, so that happens to be a -4. Then we've got the x of point number 2, that's here, minus the x of point number 1. So 1 minus a -4 is 1 plus 4, which is 5. -6 minus 2 is -8. And so really that's a slope of -5/8. The thing to be careful with these is plugging the correct, making sure you have y on top, x on the bottom, and making sure you don't mix up the 2 points. So that's why I label my points like this. I label this as point number 1, label this as point number 2. That way I can be really careful when I'm plugging into the formula. So the last one was just asking for the slope. This one's asking for the equation. Little hint, by the way, both of these are things that are on the proficiency test. So these are ones that I talked about that you're studying for both the Module 2 test and the proficiency test. And I'll tell you that this is the one that people, for some reason, have a lot harder time with. So make sure you know how to do this one. The first thing you're going to do is find the slope. Now let's see, are these the same points we used before? No, they're not. Okay, so we're going to redo the slope. So A still is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I call this point number 1, this point number 2. So my A is the y value of point number 2 minus the y value of point number 1 over the x value of point number 2 minus the x value of point number 1. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and solve this. -13 on the top, 5 minus a -6 is 11. Now usually we won't give you ones that come out quite this unpleasant, but this is going to be one where everything's going to turn out in fractions. Our slope is a fraction, so don't be intimidated by that if that happens to you. So our slope is -13/11. So now the next step to do is write down the general form of the slope-intercept form of an equation. So that's this. And then we're going to plug in what we know. So what we know so far is that the A is -13/11. So now we've got part of our equation, but this is where people have a hard time. So remember, when you get to here, you're going to have to solve for this b. You have to find b. And the way you do that is using x and y. So you can pick one of your points up here. So remember these, each one of these is a pair of x and y. So I'm going to pick one of those and plug it in down here. So I'm just going to pick the first one, negative 6, 8. Be careful that 8 is the y, and then I'm going to put in my x was, I've already forgotten, negative 6. So this is the crucial step. I plugged in my y value and my x value from up above, and now I've just got an equation that I can solve for b. Now this one's going to be a little bit difficult because it's got a fraction in it, but we can do it. So first step I'm going to do is multiply out over here. So I'm going to do 8 equals, you remember from earlier math classes that the way we're going to do this is put a 1 under the negative 6. And then I'm going to multiply that out. That comes out as 78 elevenths. Think how much easier this will be when you get one that has whole numbers in it. Okay, so now I'm still solving for b, so I want to subtract 78 elevenths from both sides. Now I have 8 minus 78 elevenths is equal to b, so we're almost there. I just got to do this last fraction problem. So remember, I'm going to find the common denominator, so that's going to make this 88 elevenths minus 78 elevenths equals b. That means 10 elevenths is b. So now we have b, so we have to go way back up and find our equation with negative 13 elevenths was the slope. So we had y equals negative 13 elevenths x plus b, and now we know what b is. So b is 10 elevenths, and so I write out y equals negative 13 elevenths x plus 10 elevenths. So a lot of people get tempted to shortcut this and just try to guess b, and remember, you're getting b from here. You solve for it. So that's where this came from. So we were asked to find the equation. That's what we did.